What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shouty Buffalo Bills football podcast. He's Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino, and we are right here inside the New York Rec and Social Club at Turning Stone Resort Casino, Verona, New York. Man, this is the second time we're here, Ryan, and tonight has been amazing. Just being able to be in an environment like this where sports are on everywhere. The food is absolutely delicious. The drinks are flowing. This has been amazing so far.
Unbelievable environment as a lot of fans here got to see Syracuse pull off a big win here tonight. Tons of Bills fans in the crowd. Cannot wait for tonight's show. And after the show, too, I mean, there's no shortage of things to do here, Matt.
Yeah, if you're in central New York and the Bills have a pretty big game tomorrow, they're playing against the San Francisco 49ers in prime time. You're going to want to head out to the New York Rec and Social Club. You can bet on games. You can do pretty much a little bit of everything inside this place. It's awesome. And the resort is absolutely amazing. The family dropped me off tonight. I told you I was going to New York City, right? They dropped me off, and before they hit the road, because the kids had a long night in the city last night. They had to get back to Buffalo. The weather is kind of, it's not great, but they had to come in and check out the Holiday Village. It's absolutely amazing. They do a great job here.
They do. I love the Holiday Village. We were here last year right before Christmas. Unbelievable. So many different clubs and places to check out. You can play games here. You can play some cards. You name it. You can do everything here at the New York Rec and Social Club.
I was just going to try to spin the camera here, but I don't want to knock the light down. We got a new little Inside the Huddle Shout Buffalo Bills Insider text sign that comes with us to all these live events. If you want to become an insider, all you got to do is scan the barcode on that thing. It'll take you right to a 2-week free trial. $3.99 a month after that. All right, no more delaying here, Ryan. We got a big game that we got to talk about. The Bills and the 49ers, when this thing kind of came out on the schedule, I think we both circled it as coming off of a bye, depending on what ends up happening with the Kansas City Chiefs game, about as big of a matchup against a potential Super Bowl contender. Now we're into the season. The 49ers are clinging to dear life. They're trying to just stay in this thing under 500. Brock Purdy, it looks like, is going to play, but a lot of question marks about this game. I think in a lot of ways, and we're going to get into a lot of those ways, the Bills are going to be able to have their way tomorrow if they show up, execute against the 49ers.
Yeah, the 49ers are the walking wounded right now, Matt. They are hurt in a lot of positions, even if Brock Purdy does play in this matchup. And you're right, it's so funny. You look at the schedule ahead of time, and you look at it as a Super Bowl preview potentially. Now they're, like you said, 5-6. They're still in it within their division. Every team is 6-5 or 5-6, but this does not look like the Super Bowl contender of the past few years in the NFC.
So let's set the table a little bit. I want to get to what's going on with the Bills health-wise, because they're getting healthier every single week, and they're going to get a big boost tomorrow on the defensive side of the ball. We'll get to that in a minute. But when you look at Purdy, who does he have to, as weapons? You think about Brandon Ayuk. They gave that huge contract to him in the offseason before the season began. He's out for the year. He's unavailable. Then you look at a guy like Deebo Samuel who will play, George Kittle who will play. Christian McCaffrey is going to play, but he's looked like a shell of his former self. He's really struggled to get anything going on the ground. And I think the one thing Bills fans are worried about, all right, let's not have this be the week where Christian McCaffrey gets things going, but they're banged up on the offensive line, Ryan.
Yeah, they're going to be without their starting left tackle and left guard on Sunday Night Football against the Bills. So you think that would be an advantageous matchup for Buffalo. And as good as Christian McCaffrey has been in the past, he has not looked like himself. Obviously, missed a ton of time at the start of the season. Jordan Mason had stepped in and done a great job. But since McCaffrey has been back, they have really been leaning on McCaffrey to be that guy. And it's going to be hard for him to do much against the Bills, knowing that they're so injured up front and knowing that the Bills are going to try to attack that weakness.
Juwan Jennings is such an interesting player for them at receiver, because Ayuk goes down for the year. And it feels like Jennings has kind of stepped up into that wide receiver one role. Like, people remember him from the Super Bowl. He was making some big plays in that game. And it's a little bit different because I think from the outside looking in, you look at this offense and Kyle Shanahan and his ability to get the ball to Deebo Samuel in a bunch of creative ways over the course of his career. That's not really happening this year. I've been really amazed at the lack of Deebo Samuel's production this season. And he's a physical style player. George Kittle's been banged up as well. But this offense hasn't been able to figure things out. And they're going to face the Bills defense that is getting Matt Milano back for the first time in 13 months. He was on injured reserve. They've activated him off of IR. He's going to play tomorrow. And I think the one big question is, when it comes to Milano in this game, How much will he play? I think it'll probably be some type of rotational role. Maybe they put him out on third downs, but I think you want to get him back into the mix. And I'm not so slow playing it. Whatever he's ready for, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm letting him go out there and try to get back to speed before the playoffs start.
Absolutely. I think you still want to put him on some kind of pitch count, though, with Dorian Williams playing so well in his place this season. But getting Matt Milano back is such a huge boost for this defense. And you mentioned some of the weapons that the 49ers have. The outside cornerbacks of the Bills have done such a good job of shutting down some premier receivers this year. You look at what they've done against some of the top tight ends, so you think that they're going to be able to possibly contain a George Kittle. We mentioned the injuries up front, but Brock Purdy getting the ball out to these receivers, tight ends, that's my big question. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. Even if he plays, he's at less than 100%. You know what those winds are like in Buffalo in general. Now you throw in some heavy winds, some snow gusts. I think this has potential to be a disastrous game for San Francisco.
And I'm glad you brought up the Brock Purdy point, because this is one on the road in that environment tomorrow. Listen, Bills Mafia is pretty nuts no matter what, but it's going to be extra crazy. Snowballs are going to be flying around. I guarantee you that. A little bit of a PSA, though. Don't be throwing the snowballs, okay? Try to keep it to a minimum. I know that's going to probably not do too much, but you don't want to see anybody get hurt, and I know that becomes part of, like, the national narrative when it comes to these snow games, but it's going to be snowing all the way up to the start of the game. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do, though, on Purdy, he's thrown 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions this year. He's been very efficient, especially, without Christian McCaffrey for most of the season. A lot of the, tape experts that go and watch the All-22 every week have been really impressed with Purdy. The problem, and something that I was impressed with, did you know he's thrown more touchdowns and less interceptions on the road in his career than he has at home? That really stood out to me. But here's the problem. He's going up against a Sean McDermott-led defense that traditionally makes it hell on young quarterbacks that are facing this defense for the first time. And I think in the elements with, the crowd noise that's going to be at play, the weather potentially, if they can't get the run game going and the Bills can kind of dial things in on Brock Purdy, it's going to be a long game for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the back end, the way that they can cover, but the D-line has been playing the best that they have under Sean McDermott to date. You look at that Chiefs game from their pre-bye, they were getting pressure with their front four. If they can do that, which I think they can with the O-line beat up so much for San Francisco, Purdy's going to be under pressure. He might make some throws that you don't usually see him make into some traffic, and that can lead to some turnovers for the Bills.
How do you think Milano impacts the game from the jump here? Like, do you feel like, all right, you look at his turnovers. I was writing about this earlier in the week. He's created 13 turnovers, either forced fumbles or interceptions over the course of his 8 seasons. In almost a little over a season, if you throw in a couple of games for Dorian Williams last year, he's only got 1. So I think what I'm looking for if I'm Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich from Milano is get back in the game, find a way to make an impact play early against a couple of teams. I know on the road against the Rams is never an easy game. You're going on the road against the Detroit Lions, the game of the last stretch of the season. Then you're talking about the Patriots twice, the Jets once. I want Matt Milano, if I'm Sean McDermott, to find his niche in maybe supercharging the turnover game for this Bills defense.
And, he has a nose for the ball. That's just something he's done throughout his career since being on this team in 2017. And you look at what he can do tomorrow against this 49ers team. You expect him to be able to kind of fill in some of those gaps against the run when they're giving the ball to McCaffrey or to Jordan Mason. In coverage, is he going to look the same? Maybe he'll be a step slower, but I'm interested to see what he looks like there too, because interceptions and being in the right spot is just part of his game. I can think of the interception a few years ago where he jumped over the running back's back and ripped it away from him. He's just a special player in that he always knows or has a good feeling of where the ball's going. It's like what you see in Terrell Bernard now, where you watch the plays back when he makes an interception, for instance, and it looks like he's going to go one direction, but then he drops back into coverage because he recognizes those plays. Matt Milano's been out of action for some time, but with the film study, the knowledge, the intelligence that he brings to the game, I could see him making an impact play tomorrow night.
Where do you think Matt Milano ranks in the Bills fans power rankings? If we were to sit here on Shout and power rank the most popular Bills players, I think Matt Milano is sneaky top 3. Like the excitement around his return. Obviously, you put Josh Allen at the top of the list, and a big weekend for him getting engaged to Haley Steinfeld. I know a lot of people have really taken that and run with it on social media. It's been the talk of NFL. I think the NFL even put out a tweet about it, didn't they? But I think if you look at Milano in terms of just like jersey wearing, popularity of a player, guys on this team, he's at the top of the list.
Yeah, he's very high up there in terms of, he's not a flashy guy. He's a minimalist off the field.
That's a nice way to put it. A minimalist. He barely ever talks. We actually caught him at the end of practice the other day. I think he was asked 9 questions, and I think he said about 12 words total. So minimalist indeed.
So a defensive James Cook. James Cook doesn't like to talk with the media either much. Very shy personality. But yeah, in terms of the impact that he's made, he's been a star since being drafted in the 5th round out of Boston College in 2017.
If you're watching right now on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the Shout channel as well. We really appreciate you. Text 716-528-6727. That gets you into the Insider text line. 2-week free trial, $3.99 a month after that. Ryan, you've been absolutely crushing that. I've had a couple of days off over the last week and a half, and I've gotten a couple texts about it. People are like, where's Parrino at? Ryan's been holding down the fort. I really appreciate that. But that's what you get with the text line. We're always kind of vibing off each other. Sometimes people will get texts on the same thing from both of us, but it's a different point of view. Although a little bit of constructive feedback that we've gotten over the years. They'd like us to disagree a little bit more sometimes on some takes. So I'll look for something you say today and just violently disagree with it, I think.
I'm all for it, Matt. Even when we do the game-by-game predictions, people don't understand that we submit them separately. And at the very end, we're usually right on the same page. We both had 12 wins for this team. It's not something that we talk about ahead of time. We're just usually on the same page, for better or worse.
You got to get to Buffalo. If you haven't left already, there's a few people that are going to the game here tomorrow. The weather is not looking great. But here's the thing, and we've gotten a lot of texts. We've gotten a lot of social media messages. The weather doesn't look like a huge issue in-game. There's a post up on NewYorkUpstateSyracuse.com. You can read that right now with what it's going to look like after the game starts. It doesn't look too bad. And there's this kind of vibe about the team that they don't do well in weather games. But if it's just cold and the wind isn't a huge issue, Josh Allen kind of like silenced those critics years ago. Remember that Patriots game a couple years ago when it was below freezing? The offense was absolutely electric. And this is a San Francisco defense that is struggling at all 3 levels. You look at the front, they're not going to have Nick Bosa. That's a major problem because he's one of the number 1 playmakers that they have on this defense. At the second level, Fred Warner's been playing on a broken ankle all season long.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Fractured
ankle.
And then Lenore at cornerback, he's not going to play in this game either.
No, this could be a big Khalil Shakir game, in my opinion. Knowing Lenore is out, knowing Josh Allen loves getting him the ball. He's a trusted weapon. I think PFF has it that he hasn't dropped a ball since last season, some crazy stat like that. And the yards after the catch in these conditions, get him the ball in the short area, let him run after. I would not be shocked if Shakir is the star of the game tomorrow in terms of Josh Allen's weapons.
Yeah, and I think you get Spencer Brown back. He's expected to play. Ryan Vandermark was really good for them a couple of weeks ago. But if Brown's feeling 100%, and I don't think they're throwing him out there unless he is 100%, you like what he's able to do against old friend Leonard Floyd. A lot of reps against him in practice last year. And Leonard Floyd's at that weird spot in his season. He's at 6.5 sacks, closing in on 10 again. He is a guaranteed 10 sacks every season. It doesn't matter. But in December, we saw it firsthand last year with the Bills. It wasn't the same. So I think if you look across their line from a pass rushing perspective, they're going to have to get creative. I don't think they're going to get pressure with their 4-man front. And this is another stat that I wanted to bring up in this show. On offense and defense, the San Francisco 49ers are bottom 5 on both sides of the ball in the red zone. They're giving up 67% of trips into the red zone for opposing offenses and in touchdowns. And they're only stopping teams 50% of the time. When we get into the red zone area, you're Sean McDermott, you're sitting there saying, like, you got to score every single time because that's what this defense does. They give up points, and the offense can't score there.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough matchup for the 49ers because, like you said, the front 4 without Bosa, it's hard to imagine them getting consistent pressure. And then if you blitz, well, Josh Allen lives off of that. A few weeks ago, he had 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, when getting blitzed by opposing teams. So it's kind of a pick your poison. You either let him sit back there all day, wait for someone to get open, or eventually takes off and scrambles with his legs, or you send that extra man. And Allen's just become so savvy, so smart. He knows where to go with the ball when you're bringing that extra pressure, and it's still hard to bring him down. We see the elusiveness with his legs in terms of when guys come in as that extra man. He gets around them, he stiff arms them, whatever he needs to do, and then he generally makes a play down the field.
I don't want to give off any spoilers, but they're bringing out some food here in a minute. And so I've heard a rumor that it is called a tower of wings. Am I correct on that?
That's what I heard as well, man.
How many wings are on this tower, Ryan?
50.
50 wings. Okay. So if you're coming to Turning Stone Resort Casino and inside here at the New York Rec and Social Club, they actually have a chicken wing tower. Now, we're outside of Buffalo. Okay. So this is not a shot at Syracuse, but listen, all right. From the OGs, okay? We know a thing or two about chicken wings. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're going to eat these chicken wings on live TV. We're going to give you the real about these chicken wings. I'm just kidding. I've had some really good chicken wings in Syracuse before at a couple of different spots. But no, the food, the vibes, the football, everywhere that you look in here, it's awesome.
Unbelievable. My wife just had the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls and was raving about them pre-show. So, we've got something here too. And come on in. I love the hat as well, the water buffalo hat.
Well, why don't you sit down for a second, sir? Sit down for 1 second. Wonderful. We got to get this hat on the show here. What's your name, first of all?
My name's Ryan.
Did you make this cheeseburger?
No, I did not.
All right. Did you watch them make it?
I came in at the end of it. We added the smoke. My boss did there.
Okay, very good. What do you think about this thing? That's a pretty big pickle that you got on there.
Yeah.
I just noticed it. So what do we do? Do we like
I'll give you a little smoky bacon. It's our smoky bacon burger. Okay. It's got caramelized onions on there, cheddar cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, and then a little nice smoky surprise for everybody.
Woo, look at this. Let me bring that up close and personal. Wow. Okay. So Ryan, I think what we're gonna do here, I don't like to get too messy while we're live. Let's see you take a big bite of that thing, buddy.
Absolutely. You don't have to tell me twice.
All right, there we go. Here we go. All right, let's count it down. Now, the big question is here, how big of a bite do you take? Go ahead. Let's see it. Oh, wow, that's impressive. That is impressive. Wow.
Now, the real question is, what do you think?
The suspense is killing us.
Unbelievable flavor. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. Pink to perfection. That's how I like my burgers. Medium rare. Excellent burger. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. You have the look on your face. You expected that.
Everything. I'll let the cooks know you enjoyed it. Let all these people know that you enjoyed it as well, and we'll get some more coming out.
Awesome.
Right.
Love the hat.
Thank you. Go Bills.
There you go. All right, so that's the first one of the evening there, Ryan.
Yeah.
And took a pretty impressive bite, my friend. I was a little bit nervous for you because here's the thing. You take a bite of a juicy burger like that, it could go everywhere. Things could go wrong real quick. So I'm proud of you. Great job on that. Where do you want to go next, buddy?
Looking at our lineup here, we kind of sat out. Dalton Kincaid. Let's talk a little bit about Kincaid. He was one of the few players ruled out for this game for Buffalo, Matt.
Yeah, and I've actually gotten some text messages. Shout out to my brother. He texted me earlier this week. He's like, what's going on with Dalton Kincaid? Like, just worried about him long term. So I wanted to kind of check in, get the temperature of where you're at concern-wise with Kincaid being out now, missing his second week. And he didn't practice at all this week, so they held him out even after the week off with the bye. How concerned are you about this potentially being a long-term deal? Again, they did not put him on injured reserve, and it doesn't look like they're going to. So that lessens mine, at least.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. The fact that you didn't put him on injured reserve if you're Buffalo tells me they think that this is an injury that he'll come back from sooner rather than later. And I don't feel like the Bills are in a rush to bring him back. When he first suffered that injury a few games ago, he did return to the game, played a few snaps, didn't feel right for him. He came out, he hasn't played since, hasn't practiced since. But if this was a serious knee injury, Matt, I feel like the Bills would have put him on the IR. You're going to have to tell me what that says because you're smirking. You're smirking over here. And I also think when you look at these matchups, this is not a knock on Dalton Kincaid, who I think can be and will be a weapon and an asset for them come playoff time. They feel really good about having Dawson Knox as their first tight end because the blocking ability, the fact that he can catch the ball. He can do everything for this offense. And against the 49ers, I think they're going to try to run the ball a lot, and Knox being on the field is going to benefit them.
So we got a super chat. We're streaming live from New York Rec and Social Club. We don't mess around here. Carl Tommen wants to know, do you win a prize if you eat all 50 wings? How many chicken wings can you eat, Ryan Talbot?
I think fans are going to be disappointed by this, but I usually struggle after about 10 to 12 at this point. I can't do much more than that.
What's your max ever?
Oh, back in the day, when I was growing up, they used to do like quarter or dime wing night at this place in Salamanca, and I could probably go through about 20.
Did you have your picture on the wall?
I did not.
See that you probably do now. I'm gonna call the owner. I'm gonna talk to him about it because Salamanca, dude. What is the list of celebrities that have come out of Salamanca?
The guy that wrote the Christmas song Silver Bells is from Salamanca.
Wow, that's big time.
Yeah, my principal growing up too played in the NFL. Chuck Chris, he was with the 49ers.
Nice.
So there's been a few.
Yeah, you're not as big as Chuck.
No,
that's pretty big.
Not.
That's pretty big.
Absolutely not.
Anyway, all right, we're inside the New York Rec and Social Club here inside Turning Stone Resort Casino. The vibes are off the charts. We got a fan segment coming up here in a few minutes. If you are here watching the show, you want to come up and participate, you got a hot take or something you want to talk about with us, we'd love to get into that. We're going to make our prediction as well here in a few minutes. Next up, I want to take a quick minute and hit an off-ramp, okay, if you will. I know we're at exit 33 here in Verona, New York, and I want to go off and go ahead.
Well, let's go off the ramp here for a minute. Holy cow.
All right. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. Come on in here. This is intense. Look at this. Can you pull the camera down a little bit so they can see the whole tower of chicken wings? So first of all, what's your name?
Katerina.
Rena, nice to meet you. So how many wings do we have in total here?
50.
50 wings total. And how many of these do you sell per night?
Per night? Well, it depends on how big of a group you've got.
Okay.
But if you got a big group and they're hungry, they'll order it. Absolutely.
And this is pretty impressive. The tower, the green here. I mean, take us through the construction of this behemoth, if you will.
Okay, so you've got buffalo on the bottom here, garlic parmesan in the middle, and then you got, I think, mild on top, but you can play around with the flavors. We have a ton of flavors you could try, so pretty good.
All right. So you said the bottom are hot?
Yes.
All right. When you're going out for wings, do you say anything if somebody orders a mild? You say, okay, what are we doing here? You say that at all?
No, everyone has their own preference. I'm okay with that.
All right. My son has actually just recently graduated from mild to medium. I was really proud.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a big moment in our household. So how popular are the chicken wings compared to everything else on the menu?
I would say the chicken wings, very popular. Very popular. Extra crispy, can't go wrong.
All right. I think we're going to do a little taste test here. Should we do it? Now, is there oh boy. Oh no.
I thought you were going to start with the celery there, Parrino.
Do we have any dipping sauce here?
Would you like blue cheese or ranch?
Oh my goodness.
Blue cheese.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. We will take some blue cheese, please.
I got you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, let's go. Let's just go pure flavor to start with. Let's just see how we're doing. Because here's the thing. Here's my take on the whole matter, and that's kind of like in my lap. So thank you. I don't mind chicken wings without any dipping sauce. I know that that's kind of like a thing in Buffalo. Like you have to have blue cheese. Like it's more like don't have ranch. But also I've also graduated in my 40s to a place where I'm like, have whatever you want. Like whatever you like, enjoy what you like. But I am judging you down deep if you do decide to have some ranch. All right, let's start with what do we got? The hot down here. All right. New York Rec and Social Club, Turning Stone Resort Casino. Over 1,000 watching live on a Saturday night across all platforms. Thank you so much. All right, here we go. Hit it. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I do like flats better, but I thought it was going to be harder with the microphone and the whole situation. But he went for it. He's nailing it. All right, here we go.
The most important part over here, boys.
Oh, there it is. You knew it.
She wasn't messing around about the crunch. Really good crunch on these, Matt.
Can you give me a napkin? You can't see my face. I'm hiding behind the tower. All right, listen. I'm not just saying that because we're here. And I know I'm going to get accused of it. People tell me all the time, oh, you only like wing nuts because you do your shows there. No, we actually really love wing nuts. These are really good chicken wings. These are really good chicken wings. These are the hot. I will say I could use it a little bit hotter, but the taste, the crisp, but I also like super hot things. Like if you don't like hot things, if you want just like a solid, like a little spice on your wing,
Has a nice little.
these are absolutely perfect. And actually, excuse me, when we go to Duff's back, which is one of the OG like big time spots, we will only get mild medium because the flavor of the wing on their mild medium is so good that I just roll with it, even though I like a little bit of a hotter wing. That was awesome.
Yeah, excellent wings. Can't say enough good things here. Looking forward to trying the other flavors here in a little bit.
Yeah, all right. I'm not going to spit any more food out at people. You saw that. Yeah, I know. That was horrible. All right, here we go. People are like, all right, this is riveting. Watching me eat from behind the tower. It was really awesome. All right, we're going to get to the fan segment in a moment. I want to go on the off-ramp here. So, did everybody watch the Bears game on Thanksgiving? They cheated? It was a tough ending there. I thought they were going to knock off Detroit. Bills play Detroit in a couple weeks here. But I thought that was just and listen, he got fired the next day. So it was coach malpractice in that final moment. And I want to get your thoughts on this because at one time, Josh Allen was a rookie quarterback and a very raw rookie quarterback, a little bit different than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams comes in pretty polished, a lot of expectations on him from the jump. And I thought one of the things that I don't think Sean gets enough credit for, I know it was Ryan Dable who developed and cultivated that relationship with Josh. But I think Sean McDermott deserves a lot of praise for how he's handled Josh Allen. And I think he's always tried to be there for him, whether it be with his comments after the game, when things go bad in the game. Matt Eberflus, if you're ever going to get a clip of this and see it, if you have a blunder the size of that moment late in the game to 36 seconds left in the game to not call a timeout at any point with your rookie quarterback struggling out there on national television, the biggest platform that he's ever played in, and you're just going to leave him out there on the island and say, sink or swim, bro. Like, I'm not helping you out. You are terrible. You should never get another head coaching job in your career. My blood was boiling watching that on Thanksgiving, and I just wanted to get that take out there, get a little fired up here on a Saturday night.
You know, it's good watching these games and having those natural reactions because I was the same way. It's like you have a rookie quarterback. They're in a spot where you want to get them set up to try to tie or win the game, and you blow it at the very end. And then he comes out after the game. What bothered me the most was when at the podium, Eberflus says, I think we handled it perfectly. I think we did, everything was right. If everything was right, you would have used the timeout. You would have set up a chance to tie or win that game. And instead, you lost in the most baffling way, maybe until that Raiders game on Black Friday, where I know the whole penalty, but why don't you spike the ball when there's 3 seconds left rather than spiking it with like 20-something? The Antonio Pierce said their play was going to be to throw the ball out of bounds to waste about 4 or 5 seconds. You could have taken that previous play and held the ball until 4 or 5 seconds, spiked the ball, and then set up that field goal. I know the kicker wasn't great for the Raiders, Carlson, but some coaching malpractice in the last week.
So these chicken wings they're really good. The blue cheese is also very delicious. That's another thing. Sometimes you taste some blue cheese and you're like, nah, that didn't really hit. Very good across the board. I can't wait to have the garlic, the hot, pass the test in every single way. Really good stuff out here at New York Rec and Social Club. All right, next up, the Miami Dolphins, Ryan. They're not eliminated yet, but they're just about as close as you can get. I mean, if you look at the 3 teams that are the wild card teams right now, the Chargers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Denver Broncos, I don't see the Miami catching any of them. I still think there's 1 or 2 losable games for the Dolphins on their schedule. If the Bills win tomorrow, they clinch the AFC East for the 5th straight year. I mean, I got to say, like, I was talking to Anthony before the show, one of our insiders who came out tonight. He was right there with me on the Jets are going to stink this season. And I was a little bit high still on what the Miami Dolphins could be. I thought, all right, year 3, I think it is, for Tua and Mike McDaniel. There was a lot of good things to like last year. They just got to figure out how to win big games and big moments. But here's the thing about the Miami Dolphins. The narrative has really never been about playing in cold weather games. I don't really care about that part of it. They just don't beat good teams when it matters in November and December, and that continues to be, sorry to, and not the narrative, the fact of the matter.
Whenever they go up against a team with a winning record, you almost sit there and say, can they prove me wrong? Can they actually win these games? And the latest being against Green Bay, and they were outclassed in that game from the start. And I know, Tua had a fine stat line at the end of the day, a lot of shorter passes, got some guys going throughout the game, but they never really seemed like a serious threat. And they beat up on the bad teams, but when it comes time to have to play the teams that are at the top of the league, regardless of the conference, they can't play a physical enough style, in my opinion, to win those games. They have speed for days, but speed does not win you games against teams where the talent is level.
And oh, by the way, don't look now, but dude, Tyreek Hill might be cooked. And this was always the danger of going that route. You had a very small window with him because at 30 years old, those types of receivers, small, super fast, they don't age like fine wine. As a matter of fact, it comes off of a cliff when you lose your superpower. And watching him the other night, I know he had a couple of garbage time plays. He doesn't look like the same player. And I think that's a huge issue for the Dolphins, not only the rest of this season, but into the next year and what they choose, how they choose to build this thing out.
When he was with the Chiefs, even his first 2 years with the Dolphins, when he caught the ball, you thought he could take it the distance anytime. That's not the case right now. Right now, he is struggling to get away from defenders down the field. And, he can still win you some matchups on one-on-one, but he's not the weapon that he once was, Matt.
All right, we're inside New York Rec and Social Club, Turning Stone Resort Casino, exit 33, right off the 90 in Verona, New York. He's Ryan Talbot. I'm Matt Parrino. Hit that like button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well if that's where you're watching. Find us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Is that still a thing, by the way, Stitcher?
Still a thing.
Do you listen to podcasts on Stitcher?
I do not.
Do you listen to podcasts? Do you crush podcasts?
Not as many as you do. I've noticed that you crush a lot of podcasts.
I do crush a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of driving. People don't realize, I live about 20 minutes, 25 minutes away from the stadium. So that's a lot of drive time. You can crush a lot of podcasts. I think there's a couple of national football podcasts that do a really good job. I had Derek Klassen on from The Athletic a couple weeks ago. Highly recommend that one. It's really good. All right, last thing before we get to the fans. I want to ask you about this question that's kind of been circulating. Do you feel like the Bills potentially clinching tomorrow or whenever they do? I mean, the division is pretty much over. So is there any worry about, that lackadaisical nature that can kind of settle in after you clinch the division? And now you have 3 or 4 weeks where you're playing some bad teams. Maybe there's not a ton to play for if Kansas City especially keeps winning. Are you nervous about that at all? Or do you feel like with Sean McDermott, his history of getting guys to play in all kinds of situations, they'll finish the season the way you need them to finish it?
So first and foremost, with the number 1 seed still in play, I think the Bills are motivated right there and then to try to win out this schedule. Obviously, a tough game against Detroit in a few weeks. Can't overlook the 49ers or the Rams despite their disappointing seasons. But no, and then the Sean McDermott factor. He always has this team ready to play come in the regular season. They're never a team that kind of overlooks opponents. I don't ever feel like that's the case. They're always well prepared. The last thing is, I really feel like the way the last few seasons have ended in the playoffs, this team doesn't want to have any potential letdowns. They want to go in hot into the playoffs like they did a few years ago. And I know it ended with the 13 seconds in Kansas City. But if they can end on a hot streak in the regular season and enter the postseason on a streak like that, they're going to feel really good about no matter who they play, whether it's at home for the first few weeks and then on the road, or if they can somehow win that 1 seed, hosting a lot of teams here at Highmark Stadium.
One of the folks that came out tonight, my guy Don over there, we were talking before the game started, the show started. Isn't it crazy to think going into the season? I don't think I would have ever made this proclamation, but I think of all of the top 4 teams left in the AFC, not Buffalo, right? You think about Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Those are kind of like at the top of the list. I don't really put Houston in that mix. I think they're a level below. Chargers, Denver, all those teams. I think of that trio, I'd almost rather play the Chiefs than either the Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens if I'm Sean McDermott and the Bills. What do you think about that?
So say that one more time. You'd rather play the
I'd
Chiefs over Baltimore
if
and
I'm
Pittsburgh?
picking matchups for the Bills in the playoffs that I think are the easiest path to victory. And I know that Steelers one is tough, so maybe it's just the Ravens in their own conversation. But the reason is I think that they're both physical, run-capable teams in Baltimore and Pittsburgh, where if you're going to run into a problem, if you're Buffalo, that's where you run into it. Now, here's the one caveat. If Pacheco comes back, which he did, and he was kind of, they kind of ramping him up. I don't think we'll truly see what that looks like for a couple more weeks. If he comes back and it was the Pacheco of last season, that changes the math a little bit. But the Chiefs right now is currently playing. I don't think you're scared at all. I think you'd rather play the Chiefs in a big-time spot, even on the road outside, rather than Baltimore. And by the way, I don't hate the Baltimore matchup either. I'm just saying in terms of like the 3 games, I think you'd rather play the Chiefs. Is that crazy?
It definitely would rather play the Chiefs over the Ravens. Just some matchups in that game. I know with Matt Milano back, the Bills could even play some 3 linebacker sets to try to offset Derrick Henry a little bit in that run game. I would still put the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of a matchup I would put ahead of the Chiefs. The defense is great. I don't necessarily believe that Russell Wilson throwing up those balls along the sidelines is going to work come postseason against really good teams. So I would probably say Steelers, Chiefs, then Ravens.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up for me. I appreciate you. All right, let's get to the fans here. Bunch of people came out tonight. Did you get a video of this, by the way? There are a lot of people watching.
I did,
here.
yeah.
You did?
A ton of people out here tonight. Great turnout here. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Once we get to this time of the year, it's always like, it's really cool to get together. It's like hanging out with a bunch of your friends. All right, we're going to go to our fan segment. Donna, you're going to start us off because I just shouted you out. I knew you were going to come up here. And then anybody else who wants to come up, follow up after this. Let's give it up for Don coming up real quick. What's up, buddy? All right. 22-year season ticket holder. We were talking before the show. What are you thinking? You got a hot take, or do you got like where are you going to take us here?
It's not necessarily a hot take, but as we discussed before the show, I want to know is this new McDermott, the 4th and 2 call against the Chiefs, is that the new style? Is he going to, in those big moments against the big teams, is he going to take those chances? That's what I'm wondering.
So I gave my take on this already, Sean. Ryan, what do you think? Is Sean ready to kind of put his past behind him and step up in big moments?
I think he really is. I think he knows that what he has done in the past hasn't worked for this team. And when you look at some of the graphics that come out now, minus Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, the Bills are one of the most aggressive teams in the league in terms of when they go for it on 4th down, using the analytics in terms of you should go for it here. Sean McDermott generally does. So I think he's learned from his past, which that's what you want out of your head coach, where if you failed in the past, too conservative, punting the ball, leaning on a defense that historically hasn't shown up come postseason time, I think that this is the new Sean McDermott that you're going to see come playoff time.
Don, you had a really good point, though. You're not so much concerned about what he does in the regular season. You're more so trying to, look ahead and what goes down in the postseason. And does he have the confidence to lean into his offense when the moment calls for it?
Exactly, yeah. And as we've seen over the years, there's a lot of field goals kicked, as we talked, that I hate to see the field goal. Anytime we're on the plus side of the field, as we talked, 4th and 2, 4th and 3 and less, we got Josh Allen. It should be a no-brainer. We should be going for it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of with him in the sense that, like, the flip and the aggressiveness, the analytics that you talk about, they're important. They give you kind of like the blueprint for how it's supposed to operate when the games get harder and the games get, you win or go home.
Right.
And there's been too many times over the course of his career where I feel like Sean McDermott has left you wanting, and like those big moments, the 13 seconds, some people are never going to get over that. And we were talking a little bit beforehand about like, if they have another second round exit, although I will push back, there's no way Sean McDermott gets fired before next season. Now, I don't think you were suggesting that he definitely would, but you'd be okay with moving on to the next head coach if there's another playoff failure, if I'm getting it right.
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
Why?
Well, I think, we've seen this story play out since 2019. A lot of second round exits. We made the AFC Championship game one year, but we have a window, and the window's open as long as Josh Allen's here. But you can never take it for granted. We're not the same old Bills. We're not. We'll do it next year. We got to start doing it this year. And with Josh, I think we always have a chance this year. So we need to start capitalizing on that.
Another season where they don't get to the Super Bowl. like I've been very complimentary, especially this season of Sean McDermott. But I do think the conversation is worth having, and we'll have it plenty over the offseason if the season doesn't end the way that a lot of fans are hoping that it does. But when do you get into Marvin Lewis territory when it's year after year and you have a bunch of really great regular seasons, but it's some different way to bow out in the playoffs? The conversation changes the longer this goes along. But Sean's in the good graces of Terry Pegula. It's going to have to take some type of egregious, development, or where you just get to the point where you feel like you can't get over the hump specifically because of McDermott, and another big time blunder, a 13 seconds-esque blunder might supercharge that conversation.
Considering they talked about this year almost being a reset year of sorts, I can't see any scenario playing out where the Bills would get rid of him this year, even if they were to lose somehow in like the first round of the playoffs. They've exceeded expectations from the outside. You look at all the graphics from the national media picking the Dolphins and the Jets to win this division. The Bills are cruising, could win it here tomorrow on Sunday Night Football. But you're right. Over time, you have to start saying this team needs to win the Super Bowls. I think he's completely safe this year, but if we're talking next year, I could see him being on the hot seat if it's another failure, because you're right. You can't waste Josh Allen. You can't waste that type of talent that you have. And there's a lot of hot coaching candidates that are out there year after year where you sit there and you say, man, what would a Ben Johnson-led offense look like with Josh Allen and these weapons? I don't know if they'd ever get Johnson because he's going to be a hot commodity this year, but in due time, there will be some guys out there that the Bills might finally say, we have to go a different route, bring in an offensive mind and see what we can do.
Dude, thanks so much for coming up, man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, man. All right, who's next? All right. Oh, my man. So a little story about JJ. What's up, dog? So JJ and I have known each other for longer than I've known my wife, actually, because I met my wife while we worked together at Blockbuster Video. And listen, if you're younger watching at home, you might not know what Blockbuster Video is, but it was the shiz back in the day. Yeah, it was the shiz, right?
There was a time where TV and movies existed on an actual physical format, and you had to go to a place to achieve that format, and you'd see me or this guy, and we'd rent it to you, and then we'd charge you exorbitant late fees if you didn't bring it back in some arbitrary amount of time.
Or if you didn't rewind them.
Well, no, we're talking about the DVDs, Ryan. Okay, get with the times.
I thought you were old enough.
By the
for
time
VHS.
it closed, it was Blu-ray, guy. Okay? Come on. That's terrible. Anyway, what's funny is you mentioned the late fees. That's actually how I met my wife, because we had to call store to store. She worked at the one down the road, and like we would flirt on the phone, and then eventually we met each other. Funny thing, she tells the story, like first time I ever saw her, she's like, no, that's not for me. So I had to win her over, and it worked out. One more thing on the Blockbuster front. I miss it. I miss Blockbuster. And here's the other thing. I got to be honest with you. I heard this from coworkers since we've left. Matt's favorites on the wall was always better than JJ's favorites. I've heard that. It's like a common thing that some of the people that we worked with.
Arbitrary art house flicks aren't for everybody, and I guess that was my downfall, is I wasn't just picking the mainstream action movies like you were at the times.
Wow. Okay, yeah, you're right on the money with that, actually. He thought that was really funny. I didn't think it was super hilarious, but here's the thing. You have your own Bills podcast.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's a Buffalo Bread Pod with our man, Dan, back here in the audience as well.
That is so awesome. When we reconnected through this event last year, I went on your show. Or no, you came on my show.
We came on yours.
It was awesome.
We were on show. Yeah, we came on and we did some hits on the Bills last season. It was really fun. Yeah.
All right, what do you got for us? Big Bills take here.
Big Bills take. The Buffalo Bills elevated Matt Milano to the active roster. He's active and likely to play in this game. What do you both expect from him coming back off of multiple injuries and 13 months plus of no football?
You know, I don't ever want to say a biceps tear is a blessing in disguise, but this has given him the time to truly get back to 100% from the leg injury that he had suffered a year ago in London against Jacksonville. So I think that this extra time off has made sure he is 100% there. That's going to help him. In terms of early on, I think he'll be on a pitch count of sorts. And by the time the regular season ends and the playoffs begin, though, you're going to possibly see the Matt Milano of old, which that really takes this defense to another level, and they've been great this season.
Yeah, like if I'm Sean McDermott, I really want to lean into Matt Milano in 2 weeks against Detroit. I want him to be an absolute firecracker against Montgomery and against Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, that's to me the thing that they're missing. Like, Dorian Williams has had a really solid season, but that ability to diagnose once the play starts, I think that that's a part of Dorian Williams' game that still needs a lot of work. Whereas if you can get Matt Milano out there, and I know it's very early, it's 2 weeks away. He's only going to probably have, 50, 60 snaps, if that, under his belt by the time that game happens. I think you send a major statement within the conference if you're able to go on the road and really stifle that running game. So to me, it's not so much about tomorrow. It's more so about Detroit in a couple weeks for Milano.
I like that, getting him ready for it. I've got one more hot take for you both. If you are Brandon Beane today and you have the opportunity to either sign or not re-sign James Cook, do you do it, Jimbo?
Ooh, wow. What's the money? You got to give me the context here.
4 years, 18 per.
Whew, no. I'm
See you
out.
later, James.
James,
Best wishes.
James, you did great in those Snapdragon commercials. The apples look delicious, but that's a Tremaine Edmonds kind of move where it's just you price yourself out of the situation. And it's tough. And listen, I think Ray Davis and James Cook, they're not necessarily the same back, but I think and they don't operate the same way as runners, but I think what you want them to accomplish, they can both do. It's a little bit more flashy with Cook, and he's a little bit more springy, especially in between the tackles, and he's added a physical element to his game that I've been really impressed with. But I'm out at that number. I'm probably out at like the Saquon number, which was like $12.5 million. So you really raised the stakes. I think you go to James Cook and say, if you want to bring him back, and that's a conversation we can have in the offseason, and I don't know if I'm necessarily even here yet, but hey, what do you think about a shorter term deal, 2 years, $10 million? He's probably not going to want to do that because he's going to probably want to go cash in. But I think at that point you say, you got to let him cash in. What do you think?
I think so too. I'm not paying running backs, especially when you can draft a second or third rounder and have production every year.
I'm disappointed in you because I kind of thought you were going to rip that shirt off and you were going to have a James Cook jersey underneath and you were going to be like, sign him to all the money.
$18 million per year minimum.
No. All right, JJ, thank you so much, buddy. Great to see you, brother. Good job. All right, where are we going next? Anthony Romeo. We got to get this whole thing on here. Look at this guy. What an absolute stud this dude is. Comes out fully suited to shout a Buffalo Bills football podcast to truly represent in every single way. You look absolutely gorgeous, my friend.
Thanks, man. You know, it's good to finally meet you guys in person. You've been on the hook with us. You know, I've obviously followed you guys over the years and all the great work that you do. So it's good to be here and be on with you finally. And of course, you got to have the suit on. Got to, everywhere.
So you got a hot take that you're bringing, just like a lukewarm take. What do you think?
I'm you know, people have thought that I'm the hot take guy over the years because I say bold things, but those things tend to come true now. So I think, especially this year with the record in the preseason, everybody saying the Bills weren't going to be great, and you know the predictions that were out there were terrible. But now I look at this as most of us know where this team is at this point. So there's no bold take for me that I'm like, okay, this is the thing this week that I think is going to happen. I'm looking this week at Matt Milano. Obviously, that return is huge. I'm an original Matt Milano stan. Back in the day when people wanted to trade him in his second and third year, and I'm like, no, this guy. I broke it down to simple. Matt Milano on the field, defense good. Matt Milano not on the field, defense bad. Back in the day. Now, luckily, we've got a much better built team around him. We've done very well without him on the field. But having him back there is really the X factor that I think I've been looking for in terms of shutting down, especially, you know, pass coverage. He's always excellent at that. But the run game, and maybe not at first. I agree with what Ryan was saying. You know, he's got to work it back in, and we'll see real Matt Milano probably come playoff time. But just having him back on the field is such an X factor, and it's going to be huge, and I can't wait to see it.
I think Terrell Bernard kind of gave a little bit of a clue as to what this thing is going to look like. He said Dorian Williams is still going to have a role on this team. Now, I don't know if that ends up being as a 4-3 linebacker or if they want to go into a more rotational kind of situation where Dorian Williams gets to play maybe on early downs and you bring Matt Milano on third down, especially when you can kind of use him as a blitzer. People forget about it. Well, I'll tell you right now, the elevated Mike White doesn't forget about Matt Milano as a blitzer.
No.
But I think that's one of the other areas. Like the Bills have actually been sneaky. I was listening to this on think it was the NFL Ringer show. Stephen Ruiz brought this up, that the Bills have been really bad blitzing on third down and longs, especially this season. I think Matt Milano changes the math there a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy that historically has gotten after the quarterback, not just Mike White. The pressures, the hits, the sacks, you name it. The Bills have to get better in that area. They've gotten creative over the years. Sometimes it's been cornerbacks or safety blitzes, but Milano, that is part of his bread and butter. So once he gets up to speed, that's a great way to kind of implement him into the game.
I like the idea of the 3 linebackers. You know, that's something that's been talked a lot with Buffalo, but it seems like Sean McDermott has been pretty stout in, no, we only put 2 linebackers on the field. But he's never had 3 linebackers who have played to this level where they can be on the field at the same time. It's a question of, do you take Taron Johnson off the field? Right. You have to make that decision. But against heavy run teams, you know, we saw what Baltimore and Derrick Henry did to this team. We don't want that to happen against run teams come playoff time, or against a team like this that has a Christian McCaffrey, who's one of the best running backs in the league. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I think they could start to implement this. Maybe they hide it for the playoffs a little more, but I'd love to see what 3 linebackers on the field looks like for the Buffalo Bills, and 3 linebackers of that quality.
I can give you a spoiler right now. You're going to get to February, you're going to be disappointed with the lack of 4-3, 3 linebacker looks, because Sean McDermott refuses to take Taron Johnson off the field. Anthony, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you coming out. Give it up for Anthony. All right, we got time for 2 more. We got Boom Boom out in the crowd here. I call him Boom Boom because the dude comes into Buffalo. First of all, I was going to wait till the end of the year, but I'm going to give you a inaugural award. You are the Shout Football Podcast Fan of the Year. He has been to literally 90% of our live shows this year. He drives from Syracuse to Buffalo Wingnuts every month. You've actually become a Wingnuts regular, even when the show isn't there. You're the man, dude. We really appreciate you. He also has another name that I like to call him. I like to call him Boom Boom because he loves Boom Boom Shrimp in a way that I've never seen somebody like a food product. You go and you order 2 orders of Boom Boom Shrimp whenever it's on the menu. They didn't have Boom Boom Shrimp, but maybe they'll add it for the future.
Maybe for me, hopefully. We'll see.
What's your big Bills take for us?
My take is, you know how much of a Diggs fan I was, and I think that this year Josh Allen is way more relaxed and less stressed, not having to look for Diggs down the field, you know, and now he has time to actually survey what's going on, find the open person, get the ball to him, keep moving the ball. Instead of, last season, you know, especially with all the drama that Diggs caused, you know, he spends all his time looking for Diggs, and by the time he actually looks, oh, he's covered. Now he looks, he makes a mistake, throws an interception. And of course, this year, look who's leading the pack in interceptions. Oh, little Mahomie. Not Josh. So
Is Josh Allen your MVP through this part of the season? Unbiased, of course.
I think he definitely deserves it. It's about time they stop snubbing him. I think he should have gotten it last year, but they give it to Lamar. I mean, no offense, nothing disrespect to Lamar Jackson. He was great, but I think Josh, he definitely deserves it. Now my question is, if are they going to be bringing back Keon Coleman this weekend, Sunday? And if they do, to what extent?
I am anti bringing a guy back before he's 100%, and he was limited on Friday. He hasn't had full practice all week, and he was talking on Friday about the fact that he's trying to get himself to a place where he can do everything without worrying about it. And if there's any worry in the back of your mind, keep him out. Same thing with Dalton Kincaid. You don't have to rush him back. You built the roster offensively specifically to mitigate these kinds of, periods of time when you're without certain guys, and it gives other guys a chance to step up. One of the most underappreciated or talked about storylines over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about it quite a bit though, Curtis Samuel has really started to find himself in this offense. And I don't know if that necessarily happens with Keon Coleman active. The guy was playing 90% of the snaps. And now when he gets back, now you can kind of, if you're Joe Brady, you can kind of lead this dance a little bit more, get everybody involved in not an equal way, but a matchup specific way. And now you know what you need to do to get Samuel involved a little bit more. So I think it's been a blessing in disguise. I don't think they need him against the 49ers. If he's not 100%, stay out.
I was a little worried in the beginning of the season because Curtis Samuel he wasn't showing, they were using him that much and you didn't have much to show. But now, yes, he is definitely coming into his own. And I agree with that. Keep Coleman out, let him, get better, get 100%. And then in the playoffs, so we can really use him, and we will beat the Chiefs this year in the playoffs. That's happening. And I think with Josh Allen, the way he's been playing, I think he's going to take us through the playoffs, right to the Super Bowl, and we win it this year.
Give it up for Mark, man. Delivering in a big way. Thanks, buddy. Do we got one more out there? Come on up. Oh, second year in a row. He's back. How are you, buddy? What was your name again?
Zach.
Zach is in the house. Zach, welcome. How you feeling?
Good. How are you?
I got to tell you, I'm pretty darn good right now.
Yeah, I mean, I see all this food here you guys are munching on. Definitely.
Listen, why don't you take a couple wings for the road? There's like 50 of them there.
Maybe.
Okay. What do you got?
So I got 2 bowl predictions, and I also have a take about for the rest of the season. One of the bowl takes is for a Super Bowl prediction. I don't know if you would care to have a prediction with me, either of you. So for the rest of the season, as we know, the past 4 years, it's always been a slog. It's always been, hey, we have to win out basically to get to the playoffs, win the division. Of course, right now, very comfortable right now. But I don't think the Bills are going to be content with, dropping any games, especially if they know they're going to get the 1 seed. So I think they're going to keep their foot on the gas for the rest of the year. Yeah.
What's the Super Bowl prediction? You're burying the lead. You got me all excited.
Oh, hold on. Okay, so my first bowl prediction is for this game. So I believe that Matt Milano, if he plays, when he plays, he's going to be involved in a turnover, whether he gets it himself or a tip pass, forced fumble, he's going to get that. So everybody wants a Bills-Lions Super Bowl. I am one of those people. But it would be more copacetic? Bills-Eagles. I think that would be so – it would just lift everything off of the Bills, considering their 4 Super Bowl losses were to the 3 other teams in the NFC East. And also, the Eagles are the only team that the Bills have not beaten under Josh Allen. So, they do that, win the Super Bowl, beat the Eagles. It will just be heaven for all Bills fans, I think. Also, I would say a bold prediction, but that would never happen. Haley and Josh having their wedding at halftime during Super Bowl.
All right.
I don't see that one.
You can take that one. You can take that one.
I know it wouldn't happen, but
I mean,
it'd be kind of funny.
Josh downplayed the entire engagement when we met with him this week. How was the bye week? It was good. I got some sun, had some, nothing about the engagement. No. And then lo and behold, so I think it'll probably be a pretty private ceremony. They've got a lot of land up there with the Allens, so I'm guessing that's where it'll take place.
Yeah.
Well, great stuff.
So what's your prediction
for the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Ryan, what do you think?
I actually do have the Eagles making it out of the NFC. I don't believe in Jared Goff. Goff is that one guy that's going to hold back the Lions in the playoffs. He's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, so I could see them falling. AFC, this could be the year that the Bills actually make it. I believe that this is the deepest roster they have had under Sean McDermott. Maybe not the best roster in terms of, you look at the Diggs that have gone, the prime Micah Hyde, prime Jordan Poyer, but from top to bottom, 1 to 53, this is their best roster in terms of depth.
I like what you're saying, and I'm actually there with you in terms of Goff. I think that's one of the things that people overvalue with this team and why I think they're not going to be as dangerous in a potential Super Bowl matchup as I think people fear, especially like AFC, NFC, although it'll be interesting. If it ends up being the Bills in Detroit and whoever won this game in a couple of weeks, to beat that team twice in one season, that's always a challenge. But I almost believe in Jalen Hurts less than I believe in Jared Goff. I don't know if that's a hot take. I also don't believe in the Philadelphia Eagles defense over the course of the long term. And I think even without Aiden Hutchinson, the Detroit Lions defense continues to be a really good. They haven't played a lot of good teams, but I think they've gone like 14 straight quarters without allowing a touchdown. At one point they did. They're a really good unit. And I think I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love their running game. They have the best offensive line in football. I think Detroit ends up utilizing a home field advantage and winning that game. And listen, man, like I got a Disneyland or Disney World trip. I leave on February 14th, and I was doing the math this week. I hope my wife's not watching. Like I'm gonna have to push all of that back if the Bills go to the Super Bowl, especially if they win the Super Bowl. I'm probably gonna have to arrive late, but I do think that they're gonna go to the Super Bowl. I think this is the year. Like, and this is another thing when I was talking to Don earlier about Sean McDermott and why I think this could be the year where you could trust him in the playoffs. I think Josh Allen has the cachet in that building now and enough years of continued success to, in those big moments, implore Sean McDermott to let him drive the bus. And I think that you need your elite quarterback to be calling the shots. Like, if you remember Peyton Manning, when he was trying to best Tom Brady, I said this before the season, remember? This felt like a lot of ways Mahomes and Allen, to me, feels like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. All of those years, Manning trying to beat Tom Brady and never be able to get over the hump. And then eventually one year he did. And I felt like one of the things, remembering back, was like Peyton Manning took control of that whole situation. They were better defensively, but I think the Bills are good defensively, and I think that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? Yes. Tune into the Shout Show that week, and I will make my prediction.
Come on. You can't do that. You have to make a prediction now. Come on.
Listen, my name's on the show thing here, so I can do everything I want. But we do have a super chat. I think it comes from over on YouTube, AK Catch. I think if Goff stays in the dome, they'll go to the chip. I think that's a big piece of why I picked Detroit. Listen, if you had to go to Philly, if you're Jared Goff against that team on the road in the potential environment, sure. But I don't trust Jalen Hurts as a passer in those big moments. But there it is. Hey, man, you did awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, I might as well, be the finale here.
Way to close down the show. Let's give it up for Zach. All right, real quick before we get out of here, Ryan. This has been awesome. We're at Turning Stone Resort Casino, New York Rec and Social Club. Prediction time. Bills versus 49ers. Who do you got?
Yeah, I have the Bills running away with this one, 31-13. I don't see the 49ers being able to keep up with the Bills. I already mentioned it. Brock Purdy, that injured shoulder, he's not at 100%. Throwing into the Buffalo wins. The lack of the starting O-line, no left tackle, no starting left guard. That the Bills are going to be able to feast, I think, on that O-line of the 49ers. Greg Rousseau, Von Miller have big games.
What is your score, you said?
31-13.
Damn it, Talbot. 33-16 Bills. We're almost exactly alike. The thing that I think the Bills have to do in this game is to come out and eliminate all hope. Like, I don't think you want to get Brock Purdy on the road getting any kind of confidence, coming in here, completing some passes, leading a scoring drive early on. I think the Bills want to force a turnover early in the game if they can, but I think Josh Allen and this offense are going to be able to run the ball. I think Josh Allen, coming off the bye, will be willing to maybe take a couple of hits in this game, get out in space, although probably if you're Sean McDermott, you're like, Brandon B, don't take too many hits. But I think the Bills win this one convincingly, 33-16. All right, from inside Turning Stone Resort Casino, the New York Rec and Social Club, what wonderful host. We ate some great food all night, hung out with a bunch of our friends. It was a great time. We will be back with our show tomorrow, late night. People love the late night shows after the night games.
They do.
Oh, yeah, I heard some hell yeahs out there. For Ryan, I'm Matt. We will see you then. Take care, everybody.